Lan başlıyor oğlum, dur. YouTube oturuşunu yapalım. Oğlum çok oha lan, ben aylardır düşük kalitede izliyordum. Böyle izleyince bir kaliteli geldi. Aylardır 160p Twitch izliyordum. 480p görünce bir kaliteli geldi.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Thanks for joining us for today's Path of Exile livestream. We have a packed show today, with announcements for Path of Exile 2, as well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which launches on December 8th on PC and Mac, and on December 13th.
Parlamayı gördüğünüz yüzümdeki.
Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so make sure you follow the instructions below in order to claim your
Atmayın, çalışmıyor onlar. Ses atmayın.
We'll start with Path of Exile 2, where Jonathan will walk you through our latest announcements. Mark will then take you on a deep dive into the new Path of Exile Affliction Challenge League, which launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its rewards, some new content we're adding to the core Path of Exile experience, and some large metagame changes.
Yeni meta...
I'll then show you our annual core supporter packs, and we'll head
metagame change mi?
Where Ziggy D will ask us your questions from Twitch chat. After the live stream, we'll drop the full
Cleve'in arayasını 4 mü yapacaklar acaba?
Game Director of Path of Exile 2.
Hey guys, it's been a few months since we introduced you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2. But one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the classes feels to play. The monk darts around quickly from enemy to enemy, building and unleashing combos. If he doesn't stay in combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up
POE
again.
2 çok güzel gözüküyor ya. Oynanış nasıl olur bilmiyorum da çok güzel gözüküyor. Şu animasyonları falan çok iyi. Skill animasyonları.
The warrior, on the other hand, is like a slow but unstoppable freight train. A warrior commits to big attacks and relies on stunning his enemies.
Baksana etraftaki ağaçlar falan yıkılıyor böyle.
When an opening presents itself, a warrior can use even larger attacks to demolish his enemies. The Huntress seamlessly moves from melee to ranged combat and back. The true damage potential of the Huntress is only unlocked when you learn to combine ranged and melee abilities together.
Ne diyorsun? Huntress.
And then there are the spellcasters. The sorceress is a pure caster who much prefers to stay at range and drop powerful spells on her foes.
Bunu gördük. Bu güzeldi de.
Surrounded by enemies,
çok damage atmıyor gibiydi. Ama gördüğümüz kadar hiçbir şey damage atmıyor da. Asıl oyun çıkınca göreceğiz damage'i.
The Druid is also a spellcaster, but unlike
Druid
the sorceress, he uses his spells as a means to support
Druid'in şu değişmesi var ya, çok iyi.
And by melee abilities, we mean he can turn into a giant animal and rip his enemies to pieces.
Bir de benim en sevdiğim skill'i atıyor. Cremation bak. Yanardağ var orada. Benim en sevdiğim skill oyundaki.
Each of these classes feels extremely different to play, but we want to go even further. It's time to check out the mercenary.
Aha, AWP. AWP build'i.
There's not a job out there I won't take.
Custom headshot.
The pay's good and a crossbow can solve it.
Bomba da atıyor. Reis, mermi bitiyor mu? Custom headshot.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back. This means that you need immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experienced that, we realized that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embraced them.
Bakalım onu söyleyecek mi? WASD'yim.
In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles.
Sniper AWP var bak.
And assault rifles.
Oh, M416 falan da var.
But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support WASD movement.
WASD şimdi
you
söyledim.
can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming. In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class.
Oha, bütün klaslarda kullanabiliyormuşuz.
You can change between click to move or WASD at any time.
Skill'leri nasıl açacağız lan?
You can only hold 2 crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in.
Ammo skill mi? 9 mm.
This is a burst shot crossbow. And right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it
7.62.
very effective when facing a group of enemies, since it pierces right through them.
Bloody horrors!
But there are other ammos too. For a bigger, single target, it might be a good idea to switch to incendiary.
Yeah.
The more projectiles hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this
Bu
one.
shotgun gibi.
If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost burst shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them.
Lan bir tanesi de
Eventually, you
değiyor
can
ya.
freeze them in place.
Yarısına değmiyor oğlum skill.
Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
Nearby mı? Nearby ben biliyorum.
Another feature crossbows have is attachments. This is a grenade launcher. As you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots. And you can augment these with support gems, just like regular
Bazuka
skills.
isteyen vardı. Al sana bazuka. Bazuka isteyen vardı. Al bazuka.
These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot.
Nasıl kamera açısı oğlum? Battle Royale gelir. Zaten vardı Battle Royale bu arada. Şimdi daha iyi olur.
We have other grenades too though. This attachment is a flash grenade.
Flash mı?
It does
Kardeşim
barely
A'ya
any
flash
damage,
atmayın
but it does
ya.
a huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into
A'ya
combat.
flash atmayın. Bu ne oluyor? Kanka ben flash atıyorum. Duo oynuyorlar değil mi? Kanka ben flash
Now,
atıyorum
here's another
sen dal.
attachment, an oil grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows enemies down, so it's another useful crowd control mechanic.
Oğlum bu oyunda var lan zaten. Ek 1'deki canavarlar var ya böyle ölüyor yere siyah bir şey bırakıyor. Yavaş yavaş yürüyorsun. Bunu yakarsın ama yakma da vardır. Onu
Now,
düşünmüşlerdir.
another thing that oil can do is be set on fire.
Yani.
Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage.
POE Black Ops.
One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage. But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great
O nasıl
for closing
crossbow
on
oğlum?
enemies because you can shoot while
O nasıl crossbow?
In
AK lan o.
Affliction Ligi, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving. Being able to create skills like this opens up a lot of new design space and allows
Nasıl
us to
crossbow
really
oğlum?
increase the pace of combat.
Çok az vuruyor gibi lan bu da. Beyaz canavarı da zor kesti az önce.
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor.
Bu iyi vuruyor
Once
gibi.
the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage.
Burası Act 2'nin girişine benziyor ha. İşte Act 3'ün girişi. Orada da böyle yıkılmış evler falan
Being
var
able
ya.
to run while shooting with Rapid Shot is also great
Clarissa'yı
for when you want to
kurtarıyoruz
perform
böyle.
a fighting
Bu
retreat.
POE güzel iki. Video uzasın diye demeci azaltmışlar.
Using permafrost ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you
Aynen
need to
sarm.
retreat.
City of
When you
Sarm.
shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals.
Yeni
If you
sezon
draw
diye
monsters
geldik.
back
Call
over
of
these
Duty
crystals, they
gösteriyorlar.
explode, chilling the monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack.
Ama baksana ne kadar düşünmüşler yani. Bir klas için direkt klas yapmışlar. Path of Exile'de böyle değil şu an mesela. Asas'ta oynuyorsun
Slowing
hiçbir
enemies
şey
down
yok
can
yani.
come in handy if you want to use the incendiary version
Burada bir
of
klas
Rapid
oynuyorsun
Shot.
direkt oyun o
Using
klasa
this
göre.
skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires. But as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage. It has a really large clip size, so you can just keep firing and firing with it. But the other really useful
Güzelmiş.
feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds extra fire damage to any grenade that you launch.
Alev aldı burası. Bomba da yanıyor ha. Manası falan da çok gitmiyor ha. Manaya bakın.
Now I've been using explosive grenades
Hiç manası
here,
öyle gitmiyor.
but
Tek
it will
link
work
olduğu
equally
için
as
mi?
well with flash or
What
oil
the fuck,
grenades
o çete
too.
ne oldu oğlum öyle?
If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will
Ünlem
catch
drop
fire
yazınca.
immediately.
Mana on hit. Mana Lich de olabilir. Bu şimdi böyle yavaş yavaş gösteriyor da. Biz bunu oynarken uça uça gideriz büyük ihtimalle. Hasar çok az. Hasar video uzun olsun diye bilerek.
This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use when something's really tough.
Ekstra kaos damage modu hala var oyunda.
Now this skill has another interesting interaction with armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your power shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure.
Aynen bayağı vurdu ya. Beyaz canavarı kesti bayağı bir. 3 tane skill atıp bir beyaz canavar öldürebildik, iyi oldu. Geç Magic'te hakkını yemeyelim. Hakkını yemeyelim
The
Magic.
incendiary version of power shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance.
Rocket. What the fuck? Jinx'i de koymuşlar. Ulti atıyor. UI nasıl? Şu UI çok kötü ya. POE 2'de en beğenmediğim şey şu UI'yi. Lan.
This combo also works really well with incendiary rapid shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a power shot.
O neymiş lan öyle? Vallahi Chris duydu.
The ice version of power shot creates frost walls at a distance. This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages.
Bu ne oğlum?
The wall segments have other uses too. If they get destroyed by monsters,
İnanılmaz yavaş POE 2. Ya buradan POE 2'nin yavaş olduğunu çıkartamazsın. Burada sana adam klası gösteriyor. Skill'leri anlatıyor. Hepsine tek atıp geçse bir anda ne anlayacağım? Adam tek tek skill'leri gösteriyor yavaş yavaş.
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice walls too.
Nvidia duvarı
Let's
da.
put burst shot back on. Now I can fill up this area with ice walls, then shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage.
İstenildiği gibi olacak diyor da istenilen ne ki? POE 2'den istenilen ne? Herkesin istediği farklı. Ama sonunda Chris abimin istediği gibi olacak oyun. Jonathan'ın istediği gibi olacak. Bizim istediğimizin bir önemi yok. Portal scroll düştü. Portal scroll düştü. Hala var oyunda. Niye var? T'ye basıp tavana gitmek istiyorum ben artık ya. Aha boss. O boss ne lan? Gwen'in değil mi oğlum bu? Gwen. LoL'deki. Sinip. Ama biraz kilo almış gibi. Boss stun yedi. Evet Petavexa bu ikide her şeyi stun atabiliyorsun. İkinci savaşlığı ne lan öyle? Çocuğum lan. What the fuck? %8 chill yine gözüküyor burada. Blind attı bak. Smoke granate attı, flash attı herhalde orada, blind yedi. Grafikleri çok güzel evet. Ben 480p veriyorum, ona rağmen güzel gözüküyor. Fight o kadar uzun sürdü ki doğurdu. Kazan doğurdu. Makas doğurdu burada. Ne yaptın lan çocuklarıma diyor. En iyisi Flutter, en iyisi. Stun yedi. Adam stun yerken bu reload attı oğlum. Jin mi bu? Jin mi? 4. vuruş yapmış gibi. Stun yedi, orada vuruş yapması lazım. Bu da reload yapıyor orada. kesti bari. Evet evet, WASD POE 2'de olacakmış. Her karakteri oynatabilecekmişsin WASD'de.
That's the mercenary. It feels totally different than anything we've made before and shows you the range of what's possible.
Şu logo çok iyi ya. Şu logo çok iyi. Diye vuruyor ya böyle. Şimdi artık Peto güzel biri göster bize Chris abim. Tamam, 2'yi seneye oynarız.
We're going to be showing off a lot more about Path of Exile 2 as we approach its beta, but in the meantime, we've got a Path of Exile 1 expansion coming out next week. I'm going to hand over to Mark, also known as Neon, to show you what's in store for POE 1.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Bitiyorum bu adama ya.
Let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Aha dur.
Something moves in the mists. Something sinister.
O neydi?
Thorn. Rot.
Ne oluyor?
Plague. And claw. The affliction spreads. It hungers for more.
Bu map değil.
Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts and
Bak bu map değil bak.
accept our help, the ancient power of the Azmiri.
What the fuck?
Beware the spirits
Bu map.
that yearn for freedom.
Map boss'u bu.
And the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
Bu boss gibi. Bunu biliyor. Al lan ultimatum. Nereden ultimatum isteyenler? O neydi oğlum? O neydi oğlum? Benim kamerayı değiştireyim.
In the Affliction League, you will encounter sacred wisps, which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood. A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you.
Bunlar kesin tek atarlık başında.
As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness. The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines, boss battles,
3 tane revi
and all
canavar
kinds
var
of
oğlum.
new
Kesin
encounters
tek
are
gelsin
lurking in
burada
the
ya.
forest just waiting for you to discover them. There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to
Bu
seek
POE
them.
2 canavarı belli. O ne lan?
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast.
Yine map dışı, neyse.
These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters in the area, increasing their power and also their rewards.
Bir dakika, şimdi.
The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a single monster, making the fight even harder and even more
Hem dışarıda hem içeride.
If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a
Otomatik
tough fight.
sentral gibi bir şey
But if you can
herhalde.
overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain. Primal wisps grant an item rarity bonus to inhabited
Bu
monsters.
rarity veriyor.
Wild wisps grant an item
Bu
quantity
quantity
bonus,
veriyor.
and vivid wisps cause
Sarı.
them to drop
Bizim
currency
olayımız sarı.
items. If a monster gets all 3 types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency.
5 tane binding mi?
While exploring the Wildwood, you might find some of the last few Azmiri wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed. Each of them have different survival
Oğlum bu lig be kayı ne?
specializations, and they are willing to teach you if you agree to help them defeat the
Duayım
source
mı
of the
attı?
affliction.
Filtre yok yarısı
King of the
zaten, göremiyoruz ki.
Choose which of the Azmiri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3 new ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular
Böyle
ascendancy class.
normal bir şeymiş gibi söylüyor ya, yeni ascendancy
Up to
class
8
falan
points for
diyor.
these classes are unlocked as you complete
Normal bir
more
şeymiş
quests
gibi
for the
söylüyor.
Azmiri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi, a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge. A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects. You can equip tinctures in your flask slots and toggle them on and off at will. You can only have one enabled at a time, but the effects are quite conditional, so you may want to have more than one equipped and swap between them during combat. For example, equip the Ironwood tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies.
Pathfinder'ı böyle nerfliyorlar değil mi?
Tinctures can also get random mods. This one in particular adds stacks of wither to targets on full life and steals frenzy charges on hit, which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod from rare enemies.
A.Hunter da veriyor.
You can buy more tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her. As a Warden of the Magi gains more Ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example, Nature's Concoction allows you to invest in having your tinctures enhance your flasks. This Ascendancy skill makes it important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to.
What the
You'll have better uptime on those flasks and they'll be stronger as a result. But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example, another new ability to unlock is Barkskin. It's a reservation skill that causes bark to grow all over your body, increasing
Ağaç oluyoruz. Ağaç aurası.
As you take damage, the bark falls off, increasing your evasion.
Evasion mı? Bitti benim için. Evasion abi.
Over time, the bark will grow back, removing the evasion bonus but increasing your armor again.
Şimdi olur.
The Breaker of Oaths can teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an Ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the Izmeri. One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous.
Oğlum bu ne bu?
This skill lets you see what type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or humanoid.
Reis Spectre bu.
Consuming a corpse with the skill gives a buff to damage against that type of monster and reduces damage taken by it. You can only have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose wisely for the area that you are in. Some bosses like the Maven are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to. But don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are. Buy an eldritch corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting eldritch entities like the Maven. You may notice that most of the corpses he sells are not monsters you normally encounter.
O neymiş lan?
You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities that these monsters have.
What the f... O ne oğlum?
The Warlock of the Mists gets access to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from.
Curse peki curse limit'e sayılıyor mu? Donma.
One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death.
Oha, explode veriyor.
One of them prevents enemies from dealing damage for the latter portion of its duration, which is quite powerful against bosses.
Damage vurmaz mı?
This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it. The final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example.
Bosslarda şey almak için, 10 kill almak için.
The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood Primalist. Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
What the fuck? Bu ne oğlum? Oğlum bu ne?
You do this with charms that you can buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps. Charms have randomly generated mods, which give stats from regular ascendancy classes, allowing you to create your own hybrid
10 stat 3 tane charge veriyor.
Charms are magic items that are aligned with different attributes. So for example, this Ursine charm is strength aligned, and has gotten the melee hits have a chance to fortify stat from the champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut. This interline Corvine charm lets you get the stat that makes the consecrated ground effects linger from the Inquisitor. and the effect that makes cursed enemies explode from the occultist. Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on Charms can be extremely powerful, so keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop even if you're not playing
minimum
as a
endurance
primal.
charge, minimum power charge.
As a primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities. Use war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item. It opens nearby chests too.
Hemen kaos resipisi nasıl yapılır?
The primalist also gets access to a small extra backpack, just in case you find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map runs.
What the fuck? Kalıcı olsun bu. Bu kalıcı olsun.
If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Azmiri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that class. These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Azmiri, finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all. There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League. Now that we've covered what's in the league, let's talk about some of the changes you can expect to the core game in 3.23. For a start, Ultimatum is finally gone.
Görün lan ultimatomu.
When talking to players
Yapın
in
bakayım
Exile
ultimatomu
Con, it was
şimdi.
the #1 feature that people
Aynı
requested.
ultimatom mu?
When playing through in-game maps, you may
Şurada
sometimes encounter
5
the
tane
Trial,
canavarla bir
who
savaşın
offers you
bakalım.
a choice to undertake a deadly Val
Hatırladığınız
trial in
ultimatom o mu?
exchange for great rewards. If you defeat the trial, he offers to go double or nothing with you. Do you take the risk and go for an even better reward? Or do you take the winnings you have already earned off the table and go home?
Oğlum bu mekanik o kadar iyi değil de.
Rebalance of Ultimatum
Lig
and
güzel.
have added many
Herkes
new
ligin
mods
iyi
and
olduğunu
rewards,
hatırlıyor.
including both new and reworked uniques. The base number of rounds
Maximum
for an Ultimatum
quality is
trial is
200
now
mü?
always 10, with a chance to spawn the Trial Master boss fight on the 10th round,
What are
if
they-
you are able to make it that far.
Bu ne
As
lan?
part of 3.23, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from Metamorph have now been moved to be rewards for
Metamorph
Ultimatum.
kaldırıldı mı oyundan?
We've also added a new Val-themed catalyst that works on corrupted items. As is normal for most
Koreliler
content
ağlıyor.
added to endgame, we have introduced new Ultimatum passive skills to
Ultimatom
the
atla
Atlas tree.
sadece. Kaldırmışken ritüel de kaldırsaydınız.
One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot choose the modifiers, and it prevents the final Trial Master boss fight.
Bunun
from
boss'a ne
spawning.
oldu şimdi?
The level of challenge
Oraya
becomes
kaçırdım
extreme during the last 3 rounds, and not being able to choose the modifiers makes it even harder.
Oğlum
The
yüzük
rewards are
nerede?
insane.
Lan yüzük
For those
nerede bir
with very
saniye?
high-end characters, it
Yüzük.
might be a bet worth making. There are
Yüzüğüm
lots of
nerede
other
lan benim?
Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
Üç tıvayım.
Now, it's time to talk
Lan
about one of the
yüzük nerede?
largest metagame changes we've ever made. There were 3 systems in Path of Exile
Oh,
that
shit.
were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of
Bu ne?
skills. These were alternate
Bu ne
quality
oğlum?
gems, labyrinth helmet enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some. Transfigured Gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions. We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill. Another example is Detonate Dead of Scavenging. You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or Unearth, but in exchange it does a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of Falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land.
What
While
the
this sounds
fuck?
like a physical damage version of Firestorm, you should consider that it
Gökten
scales
zombi
with
yağıyor
minions
oğlum.
and also triggers on-death
Bunu
minions.
beğendim. Bunu beğendim.
Blight of
Fiziksel
Contagion.
vuruyor.
This version of Blight is now spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence
What
Train
the
build.
fuck?
We have a
Login.
huge number of these.
Login.
Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into
Login.
Blade Trap of Great Swords, Transfigure Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on. There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with. But how do you get
Hayır,
Transfigured
labirent
gems?
yapacağız.
The Divine
Labyrinth
Font at the end of the
yapacağız.
Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways. One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 transfigured gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do. It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for one or more treasure keys to open Azaro's chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of. In order to replace the rewards in Heist that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of Heist as well. Experimented base types have been rebalanced, new replica uniques have been added and old ones changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases as well. On top of this, we have gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In most cases, they will be significantly more powerful than before, and also more interesting. Overall, this is one of the largest metagame shifts that we've ever done. There are so many crazy new skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
Login.
At this point, we'd usually talk about the League supporter packs. We're doing things a bit differently this year. Rather than releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later, we've combined it all together into a strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5 packs, each with its full value in points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next week, but in the meantime, here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions.
Take my money!
These packs will be available for purchase when Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
What the fuck?
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release. Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to exploring the Viridian Wildwood with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Sayıyı arttırmışlar belli. Oğlum bunlar ne yapmış oğlum? Bunlar ne yapmış? Oğlum komple oyunu yeni... Al sana POE 2 amına koyayım. Esenlisinin yanına yeni esenlisi yapıyorsun. 100 tane yeni skill gemi diyor. Bak adam nasıl söylüyor bak. Rahatlığa bak. Gemleri diyor değiştirdik. Adam orada gemi nasıl değiştirmiş kualitilerini. 2 terikişer magma falan atıyor. Adam normalde ligin bütün olayı olur yani. Yeni esenlisi getirmiş. Yeni esenlisi getirdi söylüyor. Ulan yeni esenlisi getirsen kıyamet kopar normalde. Normal bir şeymiş gibi. Yeni esenlisi getirdik. 100 tane yeni skill ekledik. Normal bir şeymiş gibi söylüyor ya. Chris abim. Abi selam. Selam abi. Supporter pek alacağım abi. Hak ettin.